Japanese heavy tanks. They are a massive bunch of vehicles that everybody has wanted to come into Blitz, and maybe not come into Blitz, for a very, very long time. Vehicles like the Type 5 Heavy, which is actually larger than a mouse. I speculated that the Japanese Heavies were going to come into the game. And yes, I was correct. Wargaming has confirmed it. However, it is not the same Japanese Heavies we are thinking of. In fact, an entirely new branch of tanks that we've never seen before. So in this short little video, we're going to be breaking into everything you need to know about the new updates coming for World of Tanks Blitz. Some special things, camouflage for the 60 TP, so let's get straight into it. Now, I'm actually really excited. So first of all, we start off with the legendary camo. This is the 60 TP, and honestly, this camo looks amazing. I didn't even realize that this was a 60 TP until I actually took a closer look. I mean, you can see the lower plate almost looks hidden. Now, obviously, this camouflage is just a camouflage, so it's not actually going to add anything apart from aesthetics, but man, does this camouflage look honestly amazing. The nicest camo I may have seen come in as a legendary camo yet. Now, I'm not sure if this part on the roof here is an attachment. Knowing Wargaming, it probably is, and to put that attachment on, it's gonna cost you, I think, 3,000 gold. Last time Wargaming did a special camo like this where it had all the cool little decals all over it, it was on the Ag Pantry 100, and if you remember correctly, it was 5,000 gold for the camouflage and 3,000 for the attachments, for a total of 8,000 gold. Now, if you wanted to get that, yeah, that's quite expensive. Now, I'm not sure exactly when this camouflage would come into the game, but my guess is fairly soon, probably maybe around next update, 2 updates, so yeah, I mean, it is a camouflage, but man, this camo looks really clean and really nice. Now, this here is something that is brand new to us, a special IS-7. This is very ordinary looking. It's an IS-7, you know, clearly it looks like an IS-7, everything's normal about it. Well, if we actually pause it there for a second, and I read what Blitz Post said about this, who is actually what leaked this video, this tank is not a normal IS-7. In fact, it is a collector IS-7. This is not available on the tech tree, and I have no clue how you're going to be able to obtain it. Now, that means that this might be our first look at a new special reward system in the game. Maybe these orders have been a test to see how many people play, and you can get your hands on this vehicle. Either way, the camouflage looks really cool, and I'm not sure if this is going to be obtainable through ratings or how else you would be able to get it, but this is not a tech tree IS-7, 100%. So we're going to have to see what the heck this is in the future. I am very excited, but not nearly as excited for the final thing, the Japanese Heavies. So here we go. This is obviously the normal Japanese line. Chi-Ni goes to the Chi-Ha to the Chi-Hi. But once we get to tier 5, things take a quite big turn. We go to the Mitsu 108. Now, after looking at this vehicle on Google, well, I tried to, but I couldn't find anything on it. In fact, I couldn't find any information on the entire line. Obviously, I like to do a lot of my research before I make a video on a video. And yeah, unfortunately, I couldn't really find much information on these vehicles, so I think Wargaming may have designed them themselves. But if you guys have any information, link it in the comments down below. I'd love to know about these vehicles if I could do a bit of research on maybe their historical aspects. That's something that I always love to know. But the Mitsu is just a weird looking heavy. It's all heavies, as you can see, right at tier 5, it branches off, and it's a weird looking heavy. Then we go to the Type 3 Junu, which it's kind of hard to see in the picture there, but looking at it, you can see it's weird looking. It's kind of like an OI, if any of you know what that vehicle looks like. It's just kind of a big boxy tank. But once we get from tier 7, tier 8, and above, it starts to get really dangerous looking. The Type 4 Juto is a boxy tank. In fact, it's the boxiest heavy I've seen in the game. Its turret, as you can see, is very flat, and the hull is super steep and angled. It looks like the upper plate would be able to bounce a lot of shells. The turret seems like it's decently thick, and when looking at the gun, it almost looks like a Hori gun. So, not bad. I'm guessing 400 damage per shot could be 350, but you never know. I mean, it is a tier 7 now that I think about it. So the tier 7 is probably going to have a 310 damage per shotgun, and then the tier 8s will most likely carry a 400 damage per shotgun. Now, the tier 8 looks like you almost grabbed a Hori, which you can see up here, and you just kind of took that part off of the roof and turned it into a turret. You can see they look very, very similar. So I'm excited to see how that vehicle is when it comes out. It looks very heavily armored, almost like a miniature Type 4 Heavy. It's really when we break into the tier 9 and the tier 10, things get spicy. Now, the tier 9 does not look like any vehicle I've seen before in the game. It looks like an MBT, which means a modern battle, or a main battle tank, should I say, not modern, although it looks very modern. The turret is rounded. It seems like it's going to be able to bounce a lot of shells. The upper plate is super steep, and that's a pretty long-barreled gun, which means that my guess is it's either similar to a 400 Alpha or maybe even a 350 Alpha with a very high rate of fire. While the Wargaming live streams are currently going on, and I cannot wait to see Joker versus Pramo in the finals for the Blitz Cup, at least on NA, very invested on tournaments, this here is what Wargaming showed while the live stream is going on. This appears to be the tier 8 in the line, and as I did say, the upper plate seems very well armored, super steep. The sides are sort of like an IS-4, but even more angled on the cutaway, and the gun, it looks to be like a Hori Type 2 stock gun. So maybe 400 damage a shot. The turret, pretty boxy. Might have some weak spots around the edges. And yeah, the sides, they look pretty strong. I mean, this thing looks like a really strong vehicle, judging that this is the tier 8. I mean, it looks really, really cool. If we skip ahead a bit, we might be able to take a look at the higher tier. Yeah, this is, I think, the tier 9. I don't remember, but I think it is the tier 9. And it's a weird-looking tank as well. You can see it's got a very rounded turret. And what that means is it might be super strong. Might be able to bounce a lot of shells. As we did go over, that barrel looks very long, but also very, very skinny. So it might be a 350 damage per shotgun. I guess the only other type of gun it would have is a 120. Obviously, there's no way that this thing is carrying a 130 millimeter. Now, mobility-wise, because this tank doesn't look like it has the most armor on the sides, it's probably going to go quite fast, maybe 45, 50 kilometers per hour. It does seem like the upper plate might be decently armored, but I honestly have no clue. This is obviously something brand new to the game. So as much as I would love to give speculation, I can't really 100% give you it. And of course, I want to break into the final tank. This is the tier 10. And what a weird looking tank that is. Now the turret looks incredibly strong. You can see right from the mantlet and the way it extends out. Obviously they haven't designed the mantlet yet and everything on the tank. These are just very, very early 3D renders of the tanks. But just from looking at these early renders, the turret itself looks incredibly strong. Almost like an STB turret, just really, really beefed up. So I doubt you're going to be able to cut through that unless you have some really nasty penetration. The upper plate looks to be decently angled. I mean, obviously I can't see what's below it. I don't think they actually have any of the armor modeled below the tank yet, but at least the upper plate seems to be pretty decently strong. The tank seems to be very low down as well. I'm not sure if this is actually how low down the tank is, but you can see from the silhouette on the sides that it's quite a wide vehicle, but very long as well. Now, obviously, again, these are just renders, and we don't have a size comparison to vehicles next to it, but these are weird, weird looking vehicles. I'm very excited to see what they're going to be like when they do come into the game. If they're going to be overpowered, if they're going to be fair and balanced. I mean, that's a very weird gun size. As you can see again, maybe it's a 120, but I'm very convinced that this is not a 120 and maybe 105 millimeter, dealing maybe 380 damage a shot, maybe a new alpha we haven't seen before. Again, judging that this tank doesn't look like it's going to be extremely heavily armored on the hull, maybe it's going to be faster, going 45, 50 kilometers per hour. Nobody knows. All I can tell you is that this line looks cool. It looks like this thing's going to have a lot of gun depression, and it might just be the newest and deadliest tank that you have to worry about there on the battlefield. Now, my guess is this tank is not going to come out for the next 5 to 6 patches of the game, so probably half a year to even maybe a year in the future. don't worry, Wargaming is going to have plenty of time to test it, although as we know in the past, sometimes they don't always do the best job of testing. Hopefully all of you enjoyed today's video. I thought I'd tell you guys all about this stuff. This is actually the Tier 5. Weird looking tank, isn't it? I don't even know what to say about this thing, and I'm not going to say much about it. I mean, it's a Tier 5, so it's just a weird tank. Hopefully all of you enjoyed today's video. As always, if you like quick information and the most relevant information you get, please consider smashing that subscribe button down below. But other than that, stay happy, stay healthy, and I'll be seeing you in the next one. Bye-bye!